the real economy. We're in Germany, where in just a few days, the country will elect a new parliament and the world will be watching. We'll take a look at some of the economic issues going into these elections and, of course, Germany's key position within the Euro system. On the show today, we'll talk to Jim Schnabe, co-CEO of SAP, one of the largest IT companies in the world, about the German economic model. We'll also analyze the country's focus on exports, immigration, and what's often cited as a contributor to the German success story, but remains controversial: some of its labor policies. When we think of Germany today, booming exports and a rather large current account surplus come straight to mind. This is a country that has moved mountains to ensure its GDP growth and balance of payments. Sebastian Lebilsik takes a look at the impact of the Eurozone crisis and a global economic slowdown on this export-focused country, and whether it can truly pay heed to the calls for increasing its domestic demand and therefore imports.
The Audi factory in Ingolstadt in Bavaria, the largest in the world. There are 35,000 employees turning out more than 550,000 vehicles each year. A car leaves here every 30 seconds. It is a symbol of German success in foreign markets. BMW, Mercedes and Audi export 80% of their production. And despite the recession, sales have increased by 12% last year. The slowdown in Europe is largely offset by the spectacular growth in the United States and especially China.
We have a broad footprint that's America, China or Asia and Europe. The European slowdown, it affects us all, but at the same time, if you have a broad stand, you will be able to walk through a crisis like that.
Vehicles and car parts accounted for 18% of total exports in 2012. Behind these flattering figures are sound working practices. In this plant in Bavaria, every movement is designed and analysed. Flexible working is at the heart of the production process.
We have around 200 working time models. So it depends on your personal situation. When would you like to start? How long would you like to work? And how could you combine family life, working life or private life to each other?
And that has resulted in Audi, for the fourth consecutive year, being the leading brand where Germans dream of working. Ingolstadt is a German city with the lowest unemployment rate. Audi has signed an agreement for the numbers employed here to remain the same until 2018. Stability for the 68,000 employees of the group. It is IG Metall with whom the management group has to negotiate. With 2.4 million members, it is the largest union in Europe and represents, in particular, workers in the metal and plastics industry. It is a powerful voice in the automotive sector, which embodies the model of joint management.
Here in Germany, there's a standardized system. With us, there is one union in the company. In Italy, for example, that's not the case. There is not one union, but there are 2, 3, 4 unions, and everyone has different interests.
This time, union members are meeting in Berlin to discuss their plan of action for the months ahead. Leave, working time, pay. Here, everything is negotiated between representatives before being presented to company management. It is an exemplary principle of consensus. The result is German workers strike 10 times less than their French neighbours.
Joining us now is Jim Schnabe. He is co-CEO of SAP. It's one of the largest software companies in the world and also Germany's fourth largest company by market cap. Jim, in your opinion, what's been harder, the Eurozone crisis or the global economic slowdown on companies like yours?
For me, clearly the global slowdown. Because the Eurozone conversation was unfortunate and I think necessary, but it was a short-term problem. Whereas the slowdown in the economy globally is a much longer-term problem, one that requires strong leadership from businesses, where the financial situation in the euro was more political.
Is the thinking in German businesses changing in terms of economics here?
Well, I think you've seen Germany being a little bit the locomotive in Europe, even in through the crisis. And one reason for that has been a surplus, which I think is necessary. When you run a company, you need a surplus. The same is true in a country. And you need to be able to innovate and invest in areas that will drive growth from the future. And if you look at Germany, they've been able to be competitive, even in manufacturing. And I think that's one of the reasons that they stayed ahead of the game in Europe. If you look at the conversation around the euro, even Germany in particular, Merkel stood up for the euro and argued for the benefits even for Germany to be part of an open market that's much bigger than Germany alone. And I think this shows you how important it is that in these difficult situations that Europe stays together and that we foster an open market. Even a digital open market is one of my arguments in order for us to drive innovation growth for the future.
Well, on that note, let's talk about the crash course that we want to get you this time around. This is on balance of payments, a very, very key topic in this episode.
The balance of payments of a country is a statistical record of all transactions made between one particular country and all other countries during a specified period of time. Despite its name, the balance of payments is not intended to account for payments, but transactions. It is a balanced account, each transaction with a financial consideration, a change of assets or liabilities. For example, export or sale of securities by a country in return gives rise to an increase in liquid assets or decrease in their commitments as an advance payment previously obtained from non-resident banks. At the national level, the balance of payments is used to evaluate the commercial relationships with other countries and is therefore an essential element of accounting to calculate, for example, the GDP of a state.
We know the dole queues are getting longer across Europe, but here in Germany, they're actually shrinking with employment at a record. That's quite the turnaround from just a decade ago, when this country was dubbed the sick man of Europe. We take a closer look now at the instruments that have been attributed as key to the German jobs miracle.
28 years old, university educated, fluent in 3 languages, and underpaid. The curriculum vitae of Adam Finis has led to this mini-job, €450 a month for 20 hours per week at this bar in Berlin.
Speaking 3 languages and having experience in the service industry, it was fairly easy to find this job. But I think for somebody coming to the country, this is most likely the easiest job they'll find is a mini-job.
There are 7 million like Adam in Germany working in what is called a mini-job. In this country, without any minimum wage, it is a good way to lower the cost of labour and unemployment. It is a contract only in name, as there are no guarantees for employees, who can be fired overnight, no insurance or any retirement rights. In return, there is no tax. But it is the employer who benefits.
We only employ mini-jobbers because we're a small company and we cannot afford to have permanent jobs as taxes are too high.
€7 an hour is the price to pay for this maximum flexibility in the labour market, a situation many unions have criticised.
It's perverse
that Germany is one of the richest countries in Europe, but the country with the highest rate of precarious workers. We have more people among those who work with insecure employment, that is to say, the mini-jobs and acting jobs.
The flexibility of employment has not led to an economic takeoff. It just means the working hours are distributed differently, but at the cost of a division of the labour market. There are those who work hard and long, and those who work fewer hours and are paid very low wages.
Young people, women and foreigners in the main go after these mini-jobs, which are celebrating the 10th anniversary of their existence this year. A quarter of German workers earn less than €9.50 per hour, while Germany is the second country in Europe behind Lithuania, which has the largest proportion of working poor.
Still with us is Jim Schnabel, co-CEO of SAP. Picking up on the topic of labour and jobs, a lot of people want to copy the German model. As a CEO, do you think it actually works in encouraging businesses?
There's no doubt that one of the reasons Germany has been successful is that there has been an enormous investment in people. In 2 models, actually. One is the apprenticeship model, and another one is very high educated people. Of course, in areas that are future-oriented, like our business, the digital skills of the future. So it works, and it can be copied, in my opinion.
You're in a very unique position. You're a European immigrant with high skills into Germany, and a lot of people are wondering about the skills shortage.
Well, I actually believe that we're in a massive transition from the industrial age, so to say, into the digital age. Everything can be rethought in a digital world where we can connect to billions of people. And in many ways, we're accelerating that with our solutions. And the problem we have is that we don't have the skills of the digital age. And that's what we need to focus on. We're educating 100,000 unemployed people for the digital skills. Of course, we as a company have many, many efforts on education. And we believe that that's the transition that Europe needs to go through in order to create growth and innovation again.
Ahead of these elections, from a business perspective, what do you think are going to be key?
I think the topic of unemployment will be key. This will be a problem that we need to fix, not just as politicians, but as business people. I think that the trading agreements between major regions is one of the key topics. From my opinion, in a world that's slowing down in terms of growth, the right response is openness, not closing down markets. And therefore, we need to make sure that these trading agreements happen. And finally, of course, there will always be a question around tax. Personally, I think that we're moving away from the focus on labor optimization, more to resource optimization, as the world needs growth, but don't have the necessary resources. We need to take care of the resources more effectively.
Jim, appreciate your time. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you very much.
That's a wrap from Germany ahead of this year's crucial elections. The next time we'll talk about monetary policy and how it impacts you. Until then, thanks for watching. Goodbye.